Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. I'm going to give you a thorough overview of the article here. I will read through some specific sections within the article. There is a link in the description. If you appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. I'm really going to be giving you my hot take. I'm not an expert on this subject. This isn't a subject that I've given a great deal of thought to. I've not done any further research other than read through this article. So if you are more well versed on this subject, please do educate myself, educate others within the comment section. That would be very much appreciated. But I'll start off by giving you an overview. We'll also watch this short video in just a moment. But this article in the Daily Mail is telling us that disturbed young men, I mean, that's a bit of a label there, disturbed young men are literally hitting themselves in the face with either their fists, with tools, with hammers, in a bid to look more attractive. Okay, and here's a picture of such a young man. I don't know how old he is, 14, 15, 16, 17 would be my guess. You know, a young guy. That's a hammer, if you weren't too familiar with that. That's a hammer. That's a chin. I'm not a doctor, but I'm sure that is a chin. And he is in the process of hitting himself, I'm going to say likely multiple times, with a hammer on the chin. Why? Well, because he believes that it's going to create some physical reaction within the body. I don't really understand what physical reaction that would be, but such that it will change the appearance and improve the appearance of his chin. Okay, so there is mentioning within this article of purposefully breaking bones. I don't know if that's what would happen with this. I mean, it certainly would if it was a proper whack, but I'm presuming, I'm hoping that he's just doing a series of taps. But even so, this is not something that I would recommend. By the way, I'm not a doctor, but I would suggest young men hitting your face, hitting any part of your body with a hammer probably isn't a good idea. But, you know, why are these boys doing this? To improve their appearance. You know, again, I'm going to relate that to young girls. Not, of course, not only young girls, but young girls with body dysmorphia. A lot of them, I'm no expert here. If I've got this wrong, then I've got this wrong. But a lot of them suffer from bulimia, anorexia, and such. And they do what they do. They starve themselves or whatever it is that they do in order to improve their appearance, or that is their belief. So this is kind of similar to that. There are some correlations, I would think. Again, I'm no expert. But anyhow, apparently these boys, these young men that are doing such things as hitting hammers on their chin or other parts of their face, are incels. They are involuntary celibates. And the article tells us that they are part of a misogynistic subculture which go on shady online forums where users exchange fantasies about rape and mass murder. Okay, now I'm going to say I don't like this article. This part of the article really is offending me. Why? Because these are young men. These are young boys. Let's give them a fucking break. They're literally, or this one here, and seemingly this is somewhat of a trend, they're literally harming themselves, causing physical bodily harm to themselves. I'm going to say because out of desperation, that would be my take on it. They feel that they are not attractive to the opposite sex or the same sex, however, which way they swing. They feel that they are not attractive enough. They fear that they will not attract a love interest, a partner, a companion, you know, or a sexual partner, a lover or whatever, yeah? They fear that they are not good enough. They are not attractive enough. Why do they fear that? Well, presumably because of their experience, or their experience will play into that to a certain degree. Okay, but regardless of that, look, these are boys that are troubled. I mean, if you're hitting your face with a hammer or doing something similar to that, you are troubled. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. That would be my take on it as a layman. And if we're going to be talking about a troubled group, especially if they're young people, then we have to be talking about them with respect, with empathy, with sympathy, yeah, and trying to offer guidance to them. Surely that's how we must treat such groups. Yet this article, within the second sentence, is calling this subculture misogynistic, and is claiming that as a group they fantasize about rape and mass murder. I mean, this is just too harsh. Where's the sympathy? Where's the empathy towards these boys? Why the need to label them? Why try to brandish them as bad people? Do we brandish those suffering from anorexia as bad people? No, we don't. We recognize that they have a mental illness or mental disorder, whatever it happens to be, and we provide them with as much support as we're able to. We feel sorry for them. We feel sorry for their families. Why can't we feel sorry for these boys? Why is that? Why do these boys have to be treated with such disdain? And then you want to question why there's misogyny, when there's such misandry. Okay, so I'm going to move further forward within the article. Members believe in a conspiracy theory called Black Pill, a nihilistic ideology which preaches that its followers are doomed to a life without sex or relationships due to their genetic appearance. Okay, so, I mean, a lot of people are nihilistic. A lot of people have nihilistic tendencies, and I would think that goes, again, I'm a layman, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I would think that somewhat goes hand in hand with angst, and somewhat goes hand in hand with adolescence. I would think that a lot of young people, let's say males, a lot of young boys, they're growing up, they're realizing that life is tougher than they thought it would be. They're gaining an interest in the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever it is. They're getting sexual desire, and they're realizing, well, hang on, I'm not finding a partner. So they're slipping into this ideology, which is promoted presumably on social media, something which is discussed, and they're recognizing certain aspects within this ideology. Within this black pill, they're recognizing certain aspects that they're resonating with. There must be, I presume, some of the things which are discussed that they're saying, you know what, that does apply to me. That applies to me. I see value in that. And so what's my point there? My point is that, look, a lot of people are nihilistic to some degree or other, and that in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's not an insane thing. It's not necessarily healthy to have a full-blown nihilistic worldview, life view, but I think it is somewhat to be expected to have somewhat of a nihilistic belief, certainly at this age. Let's play this video here, and it's going to be a young man, a so-called incel, telling a documentary maker why he's an incel. So yes, there is a documentary being made, or has been made, by Channel 4. It's called The Secret World of Incels. So let's play this video.
I don't know what there is to say. I'm a human being just like you.
Would you call yourself an incel?
I would, yeah.
What is an incel?
They're just angry and frustrated young men who are in the position where they have convinced themselves that they are unable to ever be able to have sex, or they see women as being this kind of different species that is either going to reject them anyway or is going to cheat on them anyway. To me, it's just accepting the genetic truth of being born inferior person. I don't know what they're...
Alright, so I'm going to say something to this young man, to other young men that think along similar lines. That their viewpoints are too extreme. Look, you're a young man. You've got your whole life in front of you. You're going to find a partner. I mean, look, there are reasons why these boys feel this way. There are statistics such that women, let's say women, much more inclined to have sexual activity with the most attractive men, and the least attractive men get nothing. So even those women that are not necessarily overly attractive, of average appearance, even below average appearance, they can find plenty of partners. They can find, for sexual purposes, plenty of partners, whereas the less attractive men can't. So there are statistics showing that. So what this guy is saying isn't completely baseless, but you've got to remember, boys, you're at the beginning of your life and it's a long road ahead. There's plenty of opportunity to meet people, etc., etc. So my advice would be to not create such walls and separate yourself from these things. Okay, so you can have an understanding that you know, it might take some time to find a partner, there might be some difficulties. You can have that understanding, but to declare to yourself that things are inevitable is going to deny yourself the opportunity, and it's going to give you too bleak a view, in my opinion. But anyway, let's go back to the article. Many incels practice so-called looks maxing, activities to boost their appearance, including extreme gym usage, testosterone taking, and reconstructive surgery to achieve the facial shape idealized online: narrow eyes, prominent cheekbones, and a pronounced jawbone. Look smackers have resorted to subjecting their facial bones to repeated trauma. Using their hands, blunt instruments, or hammers, they repeatedly hit themselves in the belief that it will stimulate bone growth and change their appearance, a practice known as bone smashing. So if I understand correctly, doing this, hitting yourself with a hammer on your chin, isn't literally smashing the bones, but apparently there is this belief, whether it's true or not, I have no idea, that it will stimulate bone growth. I suggest that some of these practices are real. Did I mention that I have seen online several young men in their late teens, early 20s that have extremely well developed jawlines, which I believe they've developed through using a specific tool made for that purpose. So some of these practices will, I believe, change somebody's facial structure. Okay, so here's a little quote from a male model called Austin Wayne, and he said that he would bone smash up to 3 times a day. Here's a quote from him. "I was a very insecure kid, and I kept noticing all these imperfections in my face. I used my hands and I would just tap along my jaw and chin where I wanted to see growth. I believed it worked for me. Now I realized it's very extreme and I don't think it's a healthy thing for people to do." So I agree with that, but I mean, look, here's a very important thing that this young man has said. He was a very insecure kid. Yeah, I mean, these are going to be insecure boys. Why are we making fun of them? Why are we brandishing them? Why are we labeling them in such harsh, dark terms? Why are we relating them to having fantasies about rape and mass murder? Why can't we just give these boys a fucking break? Why can't we do what Jordan Peterson says, which is show these boys some support? You don't need to do this, young man. This is completely unnecessary. It's dangerous. You don't need to do this. You know, if you have insecurities, let's talk about them. With your family, with your friends, you should have some mentors. You should have some peers. There ought to be leaders in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our schools for these young men. They're not going to find them, or it's going to be harder for them to find these leaders online. Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, we've got Andrew Tate. He's a leader. He's branded a misogynist. He's branded as toxic, being as dabbling in toxic masculinity. But to me, I kind of don't have a problem with Top G. This part of the article here says there's some research for the Channel 4 documentary that suggested there were up to 3,000 incels in Britain. And I'm going to say, documentary maker, your research is bullshit, mate. You're going to have 3,000 incels in every single town, small town in England. There's going to be like 3 million incels in Britain. Involuntary celibates. There's going to be millions of them, literally. And not just boys, not just men. Girls and women too. You know, I don't understand. I don't like this whole labeling process. Especially when it's directed at boys. Why is that? Is that because I'm a misogynist? No, it's because I recognize that girls and women get a lot of support. They get a lot of sympathy. They get a lot of empathy across so many different spheres. And boys don't. We recognize this. Boys no longer do well at school. Girls outperform them at school. Girls outperform boys at university. Women outperform men in the workplace. These are facts that you'll never hear about. All you're going to hear about is young men are misogynists. Young men have fantasies about rape and mass murder. Young men are bad. They have a negative nihilistic belief. They are black-pilled. They believe they are doomed. Well, give them something more positive to think about then. You know, give them something more positive. If they are in this dark mental state, lift them up. Help them. Show them something more positive, something with more light. And not just show it to them and hope that they figure things out for themselves. Give them a little bit of guidance. You know. Let's make it normal to have leaders of boys, leaders of men. A positive role model. Now, again, I mean, for me, positive role models for men, I'm a big fan of Dr. Jordan Peterson. He's been vilified. He was deplatformed to an extent. You've got Andrew Tate, Top G. He's been completely deplatformed. Didn't work. But, you know, and all of these people, they're attacked. Dr. Jordan Peterson, why are most of your supporters men? Why are you making videos for men? Why aren't you making videos for women, for girls? Well, you know, he's expressing his beliefs across various subjects which apply to everybody, as you know, in his opinion. But also Dr. Jordan Peterson recognizes that boys are being left behind. They're being left to fend for themselves. They're fending for themselves, and this is what they're coming up with. Hitting themselves with hammers. I mean, it's time for society to intervene. And not with these labels. Not with punishment. Not with further oppression, depression. No, society needs to intervene by giving these boys some positivity, some validation. Boys, we like you. You're good. You have value. And your value is going to continue to grow as you mature, as you take on new skills, new experience, and you're able to contribute to society. We need you in society. We don't want you to separate yourself from society and live in this dark world, being a black pill in front of your PC. We don't want you to do that. We want you to be drawn into society and become leaders of your own. That's what we need to do. I know I've gone on a massive rant there. Has it been worthwhile? I kind of feel that it has. I think I'm happy with what I've said. So I'm going to wrap things up here. Thanks.